Joining me now on AM Agenda is Labor MP Jason Clare and Liberal frontbencher Scott Morrison. Gentlemen, great to see you both.
Good morning.
G'day.
Jason, the government's criticism of the coalition does seem to be focused a lot on the internal divisions within the coalition rather than the broader approach to climate change. Is this all just about politics?
Well, the problem is the Liberal Party haven't outlined what their problem is with the substance of the bill. You know, all they can argue is that it's about vanity. What are the problems with the bill? What are the elements of the bill that the opposition object to? And if the US legislation is where they're pointing to, would they vote for legislation in this Parliament if we introduce the same thing that's happening in the US? The fact is, Malcolm Turnbull could introduce his own legislation, his own plans that he talks about, and people in the Liberal Party would vote against it. People like Wilson Tuckey and people like Barnaby Joyce won't vote for a bill to tackle climate change on any grounds under any circumstances. This is the real problem. It's a lack of leadership in his own area.
You're going straight back to the internal divisions within the coalition. Is this all it's about? I mean, you're pushing ahead with this legislation. You know you're not going to get it through. You're just trying to stir the pot.
No, all I'm saying here is that the people of Australia want us to tackle climate change.
You don't just want a double dissolution trigger.
That is not something that the government is focused on at all. And I think it's a bit early to be talking about that. We don't know if the Liberal Party is going to vote against this once, let alone twice. Let's wait and see. They've got a habit of backflipping. They voted against Alco Pops. Now it looks like they're going to vote against it. They talk big in the House of Representatives and then they hide in the toilet when it comes to the Senate.
Yeah, just like we did on the $42 billion package.
Okay,
when you challenged me here to say, are you guys going to vote against it? And we voted against it, and we voted against it, and we were proved right.
Here's another challenge. Will you vote against this bill twice?
Mate, what we're waiting to see is what's going to happen in Copenhagen and what's going to happen as a result of the US's package. Now, the US's package is going to be the single biggest drop in the bucket in terms of what happens in this ETS debate. And what we're seeing from the government is exactly as you say, Kieran, playing the man and not the ball. They're quite happy to talk about the politics of it. They're quite happy to talk about double dissolutions. And they're the ones talking about double dissolutions, not the coalition. They're the ones who have put this out there. And what the government is trying to do is force this through so Kevin Rudd can go off to his big summit and he can go there with his Environment Minister and his Climate Change Minister and they can talk about their scheme. Well, they've got a commitment from us on this. And Nick Xenophon was talking about that this morning. We have given them unprecedented bipartisan support on the issue of climate change targets. We're quite happy to act, but the action has to be right. And what we're saying to the Australian people is we're not going to be rushed into this, into some rushed and bungled scheme. They've lost control of the nation's finances and now they're expecting to trust them completely on this package, which has a long way to go.
But you couldn't rush into it even if you wanted to because there is no unity.
Well, no, the coalition has been quite clear in terms of our debate on this issue. We have said that there are a raft of things you need to do to address climate change. We want to tackle climate change. We want to address the action of climate change. And that's exactly what Malcolm was doing in January of this year. 200 million tonnes of carbon emissions would be saved by what he talked about in January of this year. Proposals completely dismissed by the government. They're not interested in our ideas. They're not interested in discussing. They say vote for it or it's a double dissolution election, which, as Joe said this morning, is what they want. They're using this as a trigger to pursue their political objectives. It's not about climate change. It's all about ensuring they stay in government.
It's all about leadership. This is a bloke who couldn't convince Australia to become a republic when we wanted to become a republic. How's he going to convince the Liberal Party to tackle climate change when most of them think it doesn't exist?
Where was Kevin Rudd during the Republic?
This is the big problem
Missing in action.
Most of the people, you know, Scott's different. Scott understands this issue.
Malcolm stood up on that issue, by the way. Kevin Rudd was nowhere to be seen.
I'll give you this. There are some good people in the Liberal Party who understand climate change. But there are others in the Liberal Party who think climate change is what happens when you get on a plane and go to Europe. That is the problem. You've got the Flat Earth Brigade that are now ruling the Liberal Party.
They want to turn this into a religious debate, but the truth is this debate is what is this going to do to jobs? What is it going to do to our economy? They're predicting 12 years of economic miracles to get us out of debt and deficit.
Let's go back to my first question. Will you vote against this twice? Will you vote against this twice? No answer to the question.
You're planning on this economy going through some miracle period to get you out of debt and deficit, and you won't answer the question about what is this scheme is going to do to those growth forecasts. What is it going to mean for jobs? What is it going to mean for employment? What is it going to do to revenues? What is it going to mean for taxation? What is it going to mean to all of these things?
So you could end up with an election, as we've been discussing, by the end of the year.
Yeah, we could.
Would you be happy to fight? Would you be happy to fight an election based on this issue?
Malcolm,
with people like the gentleman beside you accusing you of being climate skeptics, of saying climate change is when you go to Fiji for a holiday. I mean, is that what are you willing to cop that?
Look, Malcolm made it pretty clear yesterday. If they don't take the opportunity to get this scheme right, we're voting against it.
What's wrong with it?
Well,
what are the elements of this bill? What are the elements of the bill that you would change?
Let's answer the question. We've already said quite clearly that the American